Happy Halloween, everybody! Welcome to the Brotherhood of Gaming. I'm your host, Eugene Morris. You know, Castlevania is one of those video game franchises that's very near and dear to our hearts. It's been around for such a long time. There's been a ton of different games and even a Netflix anime series. And one of our most favorite Castlevania games is Super Castlevania IV for the Super Nintendo. But 30 years later, does the game still hold up? Let's find out. This is our review of Super Castlevania IV. So here we go. Super Castlevania IV for the Super Nintendo. Essentially what we have here is a stylish reimagining of the first game from the NES. This Super Nintendo upgrade looked to make things a little less frustrating than the original Nintendo adventures, and you certainly can feel it through the gameplay. Now first things first, this game features one of the most badass openings ever to come across the old 16-bit machine. The sun fades away into night. Suddenly a lightning bolt strikes an unmarked gravestone, and unleashes a bat that's encased in a powerful aura. Evil has been unleashed upon the land. This looks like a job for Simon Belmont, descendant of Trevor, keeper of the vampire killer, the bane of all evil, guest star in Super Smash Bros., and rocking a very nice barbarian getup, I might add. As you start your adventure, you look out at what awaits you, as Dracula's castle waits ominously in the background. Already as you start, you notice a mountain shaped like a skull watching you, as you come across a bridge and enter the Forsaken Land. The first thing that comes to your mind is, why is the music so damn awesome? Okay, we need to take a moment to talk about this. The sounds of this game are legendary. The music here is some of the best tunes ever produced for this series. The music in this game ranges from energetic to creepy to everything else in between. The game's soundtrack is an active player in the gameplay. It becomes a part of the environment. Seriously, for collectors of game music, this was indeed a must-have. Okay, now for the action. The first thing that strikes you as you play is that Simon is a lot more maneuverable than he was in his old Nintendo days. Just as Samus Aran got an upgrade when she went to Super Metroid, Simon pretty much gets the same treatment here. While the whip movements were rather stiff in the original, here they feel a lot more free. After you upgrade your whip fully to become stronger and longer, it easily becomes your most powerful weapon. You can fire your mighty vampire killer in multiple directions. Suddenly, flying enemies are not as troublesome as they used to be. You can even catch on to hooks and swing across chasms with it. But the most useful new technique is this limp-wristed flip attack. Hey, don't laugh, it's actually more effective than you think it is. Along with the mighty whip, Simon has an entire group of powerful sub-weapons. While the whip is very strong, the sub-weapons can be very helpful in your journey. Simon has throwing daggers, boomerangs, holy water, time stop, and throwing axes. In the right situations, these weapons can get rid of those creatures of the night. Now you obtain these weapons by whipping these candles, which can also work against you. Just think about it. You're walking along, you're in a good strut, you have a sub-weapon that's working for you, and then you whip a candle and it drops the item and you accidentally pick it up. Damn. Now that can get annoying, especially if it replaces something that was working really well for you. Candles can also drop other things such as money for points and hearts for ammunition. Yes, in Castlevania, hearts are like bullets, not health. For that, you will have to whip candles to find chunks of meat.
Barbecue.
Super Castlevania IV has you trek through 11 stages. Now at first the game lets you get into the groove as you ease your way into doing things, but as the adventure goes on, the levels get gradually harder and harder and harder.
That's what she said!
For me personally, I start to feel the difficulty spike when I get around here, with the falling blocks, the spitting mermen, and the dragon skeletons who spit fire. Yeah, this level is the first time in the game where I really felt the things I learned up to that point were really starting to be put to the test. And as usual, the
biggest thing to look out for are gaps in the floor, because when Simon gets hit, he flies backwards, and 9 out of 10 times, you'll fall down a hole to his death, which is always nice when you mostly have full health. The creativity with these levels are just mind-blowing. The designers jam-pack so much detail. Castlevania games always had a way of looking both gothic and bright and colorful at the same time, and this right here is no exception. Like the skulls in the walls that watch you as you walk by, or this entire room that shifts around you, giving you a sense of vertigo, or this room here in which you have to dodge dancing ghosts. A huge factor in Super Castlevania IV are the boss fights. The variety is a very high point in this game, as it throws a ton of different villains at you. There's a bone soldier on a horse, a multiple-headed dragon, giants who wield axes. Not only that, but this game intertwines classic monsters into its mythology as well, such as golems, Medusa, giant bats, and even Frankenstein's monster. Now, the bosses present a variety of challenges, but though difficult, they still come at a fair challenge. Well, until you get to this guy. On the level before you face Dracula, which is essentially a boss rush mode, you come face to face with Slagra. Oh my goodness, the designers dropped the ball with this guy. He is big, he has reach, and he is quick. This guy is supremely annoying. When you get past him, you then go up against Gaibon, who is not as tough, thankfully. Then it's off to Dracula's right-hand man, Death itself. The Grim Reaper can fly and has speed, not to mention a vacuum power that draws you into him. But the biggest obstacle are his crosses that he flings at you. It took me a while for me to figure out how to get around these things, but after exhausting all options... Hey! The lip wrist attack! It actually worked! They also act like sort of a shield to cancel these things out. With that, Death is down for the count, and we're now off to Dracula. Now before you face off against the Lord of Darkness, you most likely will be beat to hell, but not to worry, Konami gave you a little help. Instead of going up the stairs, first take a leap here. No, you're not going to fall to your death, but instead there's an invisible stairway. At the end of it, the game rewards you with hearts, meat, and some weapons to max you out. Now you're ready to go. Just make sure to watch your step. Okay, let's try this again. Just make the jump, and here we go. Now we can face Dracula. As you go down this ominous hallway and enter a huge room, you can't help but think to yourself that, man, this is actually a good place for a boss fight. Lightning begins to strike, the room begins to shake, and Dracula finally appears. Dracula essentially spans projectiles at you. You will need to jump over them and strike his head, which is the only weak spot in his body. The whip, however, can also deflect the incoming attacks as well. He also has a transport ability, so make sure you stay on the move because he might warp on top of you, causing more damage. When you do enough damage to him, he'll next throw some homing projectiles at you. But if you manage to destroy it with your whip, you'll be awarded with some meat for your health. Dracula then starts to get creative. He summons some fire pillars and sentient flames to track you down, so make sure you stay on the move. The boomerang cross can be useful here. The more damage you inflict on Dracula will cause something really cool to happen. Slowly the music transforms into Simon's theme. As Dracula gets more desperate, he begins throwing lightning strikes as he warps around, but eventually Dracula succumbs and a ray of sunlight breaks through the dark room. The Lord of Vampires is disintegrated and his evil reign finally comes to an end. At least for now. Simon then watches as the castle collapses, bringing Super Castlevania IV to a close. This is just one of those games that is just so replayable. Whenever I'm in the mood to play a retro game, Super Castlevania IV always comes to mind. It's highly replayable. It just puts you in the right mood. Just pop this sucker in and have a great time. It just doesn't get old. It ages like fine wine. Whether or not this is the best Castlevania game is purely subjective. If you're in the classic style or the Metroidvania type experiences, it's up to you. Either way is fine with me. Super Castlevania IV and Castlevania Symphony of the Night are fundamentally different games, but they're both masterclasses at what they're attempting to achieve. For Castlevania fans like me, it's all good.
And that's our review. Hope you enjoyed it. I'm Eugene Morris of the Brotherhood of Gaming. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. As always, keep on gaming.